Hi, and welcome back. This is Eliza Miron, the host of the Daily Run with Zah, where it's not just about the run, it's about how the run sustains us in life. Today we have Mark Covert, who is a retired run streaker. He had a run streak of 45 years, and we're here to talk about the run streak and what his life was like, what it is like, and all sorts of questions here. So thanks for joining us, Mark.
I'm glad I could be a part of it.
Yeah, great. So do you want to give us some background and a little bit about who you are?
I'm from California. I've lived in California my entire life. My streak started back in 1968 on July 23rd. Went for 45 years, so I guess that'd be till July 23rd of 2013. Mm-hmm. And, the streak just kind of started without any thought of having a streak. I noticed that I had 100 days, and I thought, wouldn't it be something to get to a year? I got to a year, and then it turned to 2 to 5, and then, as everybody knows, it becomes a monster, and it just kind of grows and grows after that. I competed. I ran cross country and track in high school and college. Had some success along the way. I coached for 43 years out here in California and at some California community colleges. My last 28 years was at Antelope Valley College in Lancaster, California. And the streak, like all of us who have streaks, it becomes a big part of our life, and it's meaningful to all of us in different ways. I'm sure it means something to all of us in a different way. In some ways it's similar, but it is surely something that is important to us, or we wouldn't do it every day.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So did you start running when you were in high school then, or?
Yeah, I started running. I was coming into high school back in the 60s. Most public schools in California, high schools, were only 3 years. They weren't 4-year schools. So it was 10, 11, 12 in high school. And I came in with the idea, going into high school with the idea that I was going to play football because I thought I could be a place kicker. Mm-hmm. And but the football coach said to go, he wanted some of his guys to train with the cross-country team a little bit, went to a cross-country workout, somehow survived that. That was the longest run I'd been on in my life. Mm-hmm. Finished up, and this was just in the middle of the summer. It was just a conditioning workout, 6 miles, and but the cross-country coach came over and asked if I was going to, if he could plan on seeing me all the time and I was going to run cross-country. I said, no, I'm going to play football. At which time he laughed really hard and said, you should think about coming out here. He says, you might be able to run on the varsity one day. Well, going from being a place kicker on a lower level team to being on a varsity team, that piqued my interest a little bit, and I've been running. I was running ever since. Mm-hmm. That kind of got me into running.
Yeah, and I think that shows a lot to also kids these days as well. When you're focused on one sport, even if it's football or soccer, there's you can always change over to running, and everyone has to start somewhere. So
running's a part of every sport. Mm-hmm. But running by itself, and that's going to be your sport, it's a little bit different, mm-hmm. And for a lot of kids, that's an easy thing to do because they just gravitate towards it. For me, I was just fortunate. I was at a school that cross country was a big deal and had successful teams, and I was lucky I was able to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also started my streak in high school, and we didn't have, I was the only girl on the cross-country team, and we didn't even have a track team, which I ended up being the only person on the track team the first year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. No, my streak started the summer after I graduated. It did not start in high school. Oh, okay. I graduated, and then mine started that summer after I graduated. But up to that point, I was through high school. I was just like most high school kids. You ran 4 or 5 days, sometimes 7 days a week, but usually there was a day off along the way here or there. And so I didn't really get into that until after I got out of high school.
And were you training for college? Is that why you started running every day?
Well, like I said, I started in July, July 23rd, and we were getting near towards the middle of our summer, towards the end of our summer, leading into college, and I just started working out, and I thought, well, let's get a week in, 2 weeks, and it just kind of built on it. I didn't realize that I hadn't missed a day until I looked at my training log and noticed I was close to 100 days, or right at 100 days. And then, then it was, well, I wonder if I can make it to a year, and I always thought that training every day was a good thing. And I had read something along the way in some magazine, probably in Runner's World, about Ron Hill having not missed a day for whatever it was back then. Maybe it was 5 years, maybe it was 3 or 4 years, and not thinking I wanted to do the same thing, but I thought, well, maybe I can get to a year, and then, like I say, it just kind of grew after that.
Yeah, that's also similar. I looked back after my first cross country season and realized I think it was 2 months that I was running every day, so I decided to commit and see how much of a better runner I could be. And I figured, why waste a day running where I could put in at least some miles every day for the next year and see what happens. And then, then you don't stop in some cases.
Yeah. And now you're looking at 18 of them,
Yep. And it's more, and every year is more like just another year of getting older.
Yeah, it does become, I know people look at it and it's a huge deal, but I never looked at it, and I assume many people that have streaks think the same thing. To go out and get a run in is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It is, well, obviously when you're hurt or sick or something like that, but to go out and just, it isn't something that, again, unless you're really hurt or really sick, it isn't something to don't even think about. It's just something that you go do.
Yeah, exactly. It's I call it like brushing your teeth in the morning. It just becomes a habit, and you get it over with, and you move on.
That's how my wife describes it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yep, that's how she described it.
Nice. Well, I guess that we did have a question about how your family and friends and even your team, later on as you started coaching, how did they support you in your streak? And were there any did anybody give you a hard time, I guess, in having to do the run every day? My family calls it, she has to do the run thing.
Yeah. No, my wife, when we started going out, the streak was 7 or 8 years, maybe 9 years old as it was. So she kind of, knew about it. She has been by far my biggest fan. Has helped me through some tough times when I've been sick and hurt and stuff like that. My kids obviously are, they're all growing at this point, and they didn't know anything else. Yeah. They just thought that's what Dad did. The guys on the teams I ran with, they kind of kid me about it every once in a while and stuff, but they didn't think a lot about it. John Sutherland, who has the longest streak now in the United States, coming up on 50 years, I think, or going to break Ron Hill's thing sometime in January. I think this coming January. He was on one of my teams. We were teammates together back at in freshman in college. But the kids on my team, I never spoke a whole lot about it to them. There's a couple of kids that ran for me that have had very long streaks. A couple of them have streaks that are still going on today that are 13, 14, 15 years old, long. Yeah. And, but, as a coach, and I knew this as an athlete also, there were times when I was hurt that I probably it would have helped my competitive career if I'd taken some time off. And, so, I never pressed it with the kids, and I never spoke a whole lot about it. They asked me about it. I would talk about it and stuff, but, I never spent a whole lot of time about what I was doing, because when you're coaching, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah.
And so I didn't spend a lot of time talking about it unless I was asked about it by one of the kids on my teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was there ever, well, I guess maybe we could talk about injuries. I mean, I ran in college, and my coach would always kind of use the streak against me in a way. If only I would take a day off, I'd be this better of a runner. And but I know in some ways, some people are hesitant to start a streak and also don't believe in the running every day thing because of injuries. So did you, maybe in your competitive days, were there some injuries that you had to get through?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had some injuries where I was really hurt, and my freshman track season, that started so well, I got hurt, and it ended up very poorly for me until I took a few weeks easy, and then had a big race at the very end of the year. But the injuries and stuff was just things that I wanted to try to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure many people that have streaks would understand when you go, you just gotta, you want to be the tough guy and get through these things. You don't want to give in.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to give in, and I never had coaches that said, hey, take days off, things like that. It was also a different era. Huge miles was a big thing back then.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't unusual to run 100 miles a week, 120, 140 miles a week. So the coaches didn't put the brakes on you.
Mm-hmm.
And so no, I never had coaches say anything or try to slow things down. I'm not sure if it would have been good if I did, and I don't know if I would have listened to them if they had told me that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they kind of went with it, and I was streak wise. I was lucky that I passed through those programs, so
mm-hmm.
I didn't have people telling me to take days off.
Yeah. And with the high mileage, I have some of your running streak mileage here in an old Streak magazine from 2011. So it looks like from 1969, I guess that was your first full year of running. We have about 5,400 miles for the year, and then about 5,000 to about a little over 6,000, basically till 1978. So that's quite a bit of mileage. In those years.
100 miles was a week was kind of normal.
Yeah.
And I don't recall, obviously all those years, the total year totals and stuff. But if you look at those years, I'm sure I averaged over 100 miles a week for
mm-hmm.
10, 12, maybe 15 years, And it was just part of what I did. I'd run
mm-hmm.
in the morning, I'd run in the afternoon when I started coaching. If I didn't run with my kids in the morning, I'd run on my own. If I didn't run with them, sometimes in the afternoon, afterwards I'd go out and run on my own. It was, I was still competing and tried to compete, at a decent level until I was in my mid-30s, so it was just something that I did, and miles, like I say, back in those days, miles were king. Mm-hmm. Everybody ran a lot of miles and didn't think a whole lot about it.
Yeah, and in your coaching, how did that, I guess, kind of philosophy of high mileage transfer to your coaching?
Well, it kind of depended upon the group of kids I had.
Mm-hmm.
There were years when we'd touch 80, 90 miles. Occasionally we'd have some kids that would run 100, but not often.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 6 or 7 years I coached, we were closer to a 50 to 70 mile group, a mile a week team, simply because of the kids that were coming through the program and where they were when they came into the program. When I first started coaching, getting kids in that had run 70 or 80 miles a week in high school was not an uncommon thing.
Mm-hmm.
As I went on, it was more common to get kids coming into the program that were running 40 miles a week. So to take kids from 40 to 100 was a big ask.
Yeah.
But we could get them to where we could be running 60, 70, 80 miles a week, depending upon the individual. So it really depended upon the group that came in and the kids that were in the program at the time. And obviously some kids would always run more than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm also a fan of high mileage in my marathon training. I think, I mean, I know everyone's different, but for me, it made sense to run the 80 miles a week consistently especially if you're training for marathons, which, I know people run a lot more than that, but
Yeah,
eventually.
and it's also changed now also, back in the Stone Age when I was, in college and in my competitive career, there weren't marathons every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There were a handful in the state of California over the course of a year, and there weren't 20,000 people running them. There was 150.
Yeah.
But the people that went to the marathons, most of them were training to do that. Where today, many people that go run marathons and stuff, they don't do a whole lot of training for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do it for an activity.
Yeah.
It's a charity thing, fundraising thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of different reasons rather than back again, like I call it the Stone Age. Where a lot of the people who are running those, if not the majority of the people running them, were training to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a little bit different. There wasn't the numbers and the large number of people running today, running back then as there is today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I learned a lot about that from Jim Pearson. I think you guys are also friends. Yeah, sure. And I kind of modeled. I tried to live vicariously like I was running in the 70s when I was marathon training. But in some ways, it was discouraging to see how people don't train and still get out there. But it's also nice that everyone is able to have that experience as well. It's just, like you said, times have changed.
I think it's wonderful that all these people go out and complete a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be in 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever, how long it takes them and stuff. But that's a lot different when you look at the results of a marathon in the 70s, where the last person, the 100th person crossing the line, might have been 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too is, there were very few, if any, women running back then
mm-hmm.
in marathons. When I was in the 60s, early 70s, through the 70s and stuff, the women were just coming into the event at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there weren't as many, only a handful of women that were competing in the marathon. So it was a different world at the time. But miles were sure king back then.
Mm-hmm. And so all the miles, that you, in training and workouts, did you feel like you've had this meditative experience in running? And also, when your streak got a little bit older, did it become any different if you weren't training for something? Was it a way to kind of connect with yourself and be outside, enjoying the weather and run? How did that, I guess, change?
I've always enjoyed the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I still, when I go out and get on my bike and stuff, as soon as the sun's out, I get out and I go ride,
mm-hmm.
and it's all, when I was done competing, when I got into my later 30s and into my 40s, 50s, and 60s, it was something that was my time of day.
Mm-hmm.
It was a part of the day that I was by myself. You could think about many different things, whether it be work, family, just stuff, or not think at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have I always felt better after that run was over, and it's kind of started the day for me. You used, like brushing your teeth, you mentioned that before.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was the day, that's the way I always started my days, and very rarely did I not get up and run in the morning. And, even if I had stuff to do early, like if I had to be at school at 5 o'clock in the morning, I had no problem getting up and running at 4 for half an hour and then go to school.
Mm-hmm.
It just made me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So, meditative, absolutely. It's an experience that it's kind of set my day up for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the morning time to run. And my dad has a 15-year streak, so he started a streak after me. And he loves running in the morning time for the same reasons. He feels accomplished, just a way to start the day. And I think as a lifestyle change for people interested in starting running, the morning is the best time to change your lifestyle, because then it's not just about that morning run. It turns into, how do you prepare the night before? How do you prepare, what are you going to have for dinner? And it all kind of...
all that stuff, and I also think that, and I don't know how early a lot of people go out and run. I was typically on the street by, at the latest I'd get out there by 6, but the streets are empty. There's the time of year when you can get up in the hills all by yourself on the trails and there's nobody there and stuff. And, that's just terrific stuff. It makes you feel better. It, some days you might be inspired by it, but it sure is something that is, I don't want to use the word spiritual, but in some ways I assume it is for a lot of people, those morning hours when you're by yourself. And it means a lot of different things at different times during the streak years, but that's a great time to be out there early in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another question somebody had here was, were there any other physical practices that you did to support the run and your body to get through mileage? Did you, strength train, stretching, any sort of that kind of thing?
I always say this, and I hate to say it, but I didn't do much of anything.
Yeah.
I stretched some, not much, just very basic stretching. Mm-hmm. I stretch more now as I've gotten older because I have to. But when I was a competitive runner, I stretched a little bit, but not much. I never went to the weight room much at all. Once in a while I'd go to humor a coach. But it was so embarrassing that I didn't stay in there very long. Mm-hmm. And, what I did was, I ran. Yeah. And, I'm sure that, and for many people back in that era, the amount of time in the weight room was minimal for most of them. Even if they had a regular program, they weren't in there for long periods of time. It's not like the strength programs you see today for elite runners. Mm-hmm. And stretching, it was an important thing back then, but it was none of the teams I was on was stretching. I can't say it wasn't an important thing, but it wasn't something that was that they spent a lot of time on. Mm-hmm. And so I just, I kind of thought that, if we'd run a little bit more, if I ran a little bit more, that'd be better than me stretching a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do anything much other than just run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, when I was in my training days, it's like, if you want to run, you have to run, basically you have to put in that mileage if you want to train. So I think running is, and sometimes it gets forgotten about. There's all these other practices and training and weightlifting, and in some ways it can kind of get confusing. But if the main goal is to run, just get out there and start running in some ways.
Yeah, even with my teams, we would stretch. I'd let them stretch for about 10, 15 minutes. They'd have some basic things that I'd ask them to do and stuff. I'd let them stretch on their own for 15 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. And there'd be a number of kids that would say they need to stretch more. And I'd tell them, hey, look, when we get done, you can spend all the time you want. Mm-hmm. And I would have kids that would spend a half hour, 40 minutes sometimes. Some kids, it was, I can't say 40 minutes, but for half an hour, that they'd stick around and stretch after. And that was fine with me. Mm-hmm. But, I had the kids for a limited amount of time each day. And I thought we needed to train and run more than we needed to do a lot of stretching. Like I said, we did do some, but it wasn't a bulk of our training time was mm-hmm. not done stretching.
Mm-hmm. Well, so was there a difficult moment you had through life, and how did running help you make it through?
Well, I'm sure everybody has different mm-hmm. moments in their life, different injuries, both my parents passed away from cancer within 6 months of each other, and the one thing I have found, still today, like I say, either on the bike or in a pool, the one constant is being able to get out and do something,
Mm-hmm.
And when there was a lot of issues, like I say, when my parents were sick, the ability to get out, just kind of be by myself and do something that was normal.
Mm-hmm.
That was running was important to me, and there's many times, you have a family and stuff, just being able to get out and get through things that are going on, day-to-day stuff with your family, or there's so many things going on at one time with your family. The run is the one time during my day that was, again, I'll use the word normal.
Mm-hmm.
And in my book, I talked about when I had a sales job, I was on the road 150 days a year for a couple years. The only thing normal about that was the fact that I was able to go out and run every morning.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a different city, a different airport, different cars, food and all that kind of stuff is different half the days of the year almost. The one thing that was a constant was the ability to go out and run. Mm-hmm. And so that was, it has surely helped me, keep some type of normalcy in my life a lot of times over the years.
Mm-hmm. And in some ways, I mean, I kind of call the same, what you're talking about is that way you can connect with yourself every day. So no matter what's going on, you're able to have that time to yourself, connect and kind of remove yourself away from a situation or something that's difficult or stressful and have that time.
Yeah, I've always said, that fitness in general, the time you take for yourself each day, and especially when we have streaks the way we do and stuff, it's probably the most selfish thing we can do, taking the time away from everybody else and giving yourself that half hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, mm-hmm. depending on the day. But having that time allows you to set up and carry on with your day the way it's supposed to be carried on with, mm-hmm. and allows you to be able to function in a way that you want to have your day function. And so, I've always thought that running or just working out in general, whatever it is, can help us through a lot of difficult times on a regular basis, because we all have difficult times probably on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. And maybe some say it's a selfish thing, but to step away from your family or kids and take that time to yourself allows you to be a better, mom or dad to your kids.
Absolutely. And I mm-hmm. believe that. Mm-hmm. And I believe that. I believe that allows you to be a better, in a lot of ways, a better person when you're doing the things you have to do on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, let's talk kind of towards the end of your streak. I know in 2011 you were talking about a knee injury. So was that the ultimate? There was an injury, and is that why you decided to end it?
No, the streak. From the time I was a little kid, I had horribly flat feet. And the knee injury I think I was talking about, I had an injury. I had a torn meniscus.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I had to have surgery on, and I lived through that, and I ran through that. But my feet were something that were always a source of conversation when people saw them, because they were so flat. And about 6 or 7 years before the streak ended, somehow my right foot started to collapse even further. And I don't know what the medical term for it is, but a layman's term is midfoot collapse.
Okay.
And as my ankle is basically on the ground now. It's flattened out so much, and on my right foot, and that kind of points to the outside now, and that caused me a lot of pain. And then my left foot started to collapse even more. And the last year and a half, all I could say was that I was getting another day in. Mm-hmm. And for me, I always liked to train. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't training anymore. all I was doing was going out, and I could say, well, I got in 45 minutes today. I got in 5 miles. I got in 7 miles. I got in 3 miles. Whatever the case may be. But I was doing. I can't say I was doing nothing, but I wasn't accomplishing a whole lot. And I kind of discovered the bike about a year before my streak ended. And I started riding, and then I got a bike, and I started riding more and stuff. And I thought, well, I can go out and I can ride hard. I can train again. And I always liked training. I liked training hard. I liked the feeling of when I used to walk off the track when I was younger and just be beat to death. I liked that. I liked what it felt like finishing a long run and being, the accomplishment you got from it. So, the streak was getting to a point where all I could say is that I got another day in. And for me, I could have continued on doing that, although the people that were with me on my last run would argue that because I know how horrible it looked when I was running. But I could have continued on doing that for some time, but it wasn't any fun for me anymore. It was a lot of work just to get out and hobble through 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, however long it would be that day. And so, I just decided this was going to be the end of it, and I was going to end in January. My wife and kids kind of talked me into getting to 45 years to get to a nice round number. And said, okay, that's it. But I'll have to tell you, when it was over for me, I was happy because I wasn't going out hobbling around. My feet stopped killing me on a regular basis. It was no longer fun. It was a chore to keep it going. And so for me, but with that being said, I was able to jump on the bike and ride for 2 or 3 hours. I could ride with a group, and I could latch on to some guys who were a lot better than me, hang on to their wheel, and get a great workout in that I hadn't done in years when I finished, and being on the bike, since you're not beating yourself up, your legs up and stuff, I was able to go out and do it again the next day.
So is that what you did the next day?
So, yeah, so that was fun, and I still, I'm on the bike, almost every day. If I'm not on the bike, I'm in a pool, and if I'm just absolutely exhausted, I can now take a day off, and I feel guilty about it still, but I can do that and heal up a little bit. As you get older, everything kind of aches a little bit now and then. So, for me, when the streak was over, it was as I say, it was like I was saying goodbye to a friend that I had for 45 years. And I can't say I don't miss running, because there are certain things I do miss about it. But I don't miss it enough where I'd say, hey, geez, I'd like to start hobbling around again. Because it was just too much work to do that. And I had something else I could go replace it with on the bike and get back out where I was training and having fun again and enjoying it.
So that was the last day that you ran? You haven't run since that day?
No, I hobbled around. I've hobbled around. The next year I went and ran maybe 5 or 6 times. I didn't have my bike with me. I was with my team. I was still coaching, and so I went out and hobbled around a little bit. But that wasn't a whole lot of fun, other than the fact I could say, well, I did something today.
Yeah.
If I don't have my bike with me and there's not a pool available, I'm okay at this point in my life of taking a couple days off. My life isn't going to be changed by that at this point.
So what was the day like? The next day, July 24th was it? The first day that you missed running?
I was, I got up. I don't know how far I rode that day, but, I went out and got on my bike. I think I rode for a couple hours, and, I had an awful lot of people checking up on me because they were concerned, whether I'd be able to get through the day. But like I say, for me, it was relief. It was over, and I was ready for it to all come to an end. So the next day was, I didn't look at it as a whole lot different other than the fact that I didn't run. I rode my bike.
Yeah.
I still went out and worked out and stuff. And so there wasn't, for me, I didn't look at it as a whole lot changed.
Mm-hmm.
No, rather, I just did a different activity. And so it wasn't something where, I was, my wife didn't have to hide my shoes and stuff like that. It was a pretty easy transition for me because I had been looking forward to it for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to do it on my terms. I didn't, I read in the streak registry about people whose streak ended because they've broken a foot, they broke a leg, they were in a car accident, surgeries,
mm-hmm.
health issues, and things like that. And I feel horrible for them because it didn't end the way they wanted it to end. For me, I got to end it the way I wanted to end it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy about that, and maybe that's why the transition was so easy for me.
Mm-hmm. Again, you still kind of maintain that ritual of basically getting exercise and taking that day out for yourself. So in some ways, that's, I'm sure.
For me, it's I'll be very honest, it's no different.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I'm not running anymore. And, like I say, there are certain things I do miss about it, but not enough for me to stay out there, go, hey, geez, I think I'll go hobble around for 5 or 10 minutes, where I can get on the bike and I can go ride, I can get in the pool, I can go swim, and not feel beat up afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, it was a very easy thing to. Well, I can't say easy. It was a thing that I could walk away from, knowing I had something else there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's I mean, someday I'll be in that situation as well. So.
Well, everybody is. Everybody's going to get to a point where, for some reason, it's got to end. Mm-hmm. Personal reasons, health issues, injury issues, whatever the case may be. Everybody's streak's going to end sooner or later. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was very comfortable in ending it the way I wanted it to, when I wanted it to end.
Mm-hmm. And we're placed with these obstacles that you think, okay, maybe. So I had to run through 2 pregnancies and giving birth, and there's always that hesitation. Well, this might be it, but you try your hardest to get it in, and
you find a way.
Yeah, there's always a way.
You find a way. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been in the hospital a couple times. One time I was in there, and the doctor wrote on my orders that the nurses saw that I was able to get up and shuffle around the halls for 20 minutes. So I had the IV, and my son came up, and this hospital hadn't opened the entire wings. We went to a part of the hospital where it wasn't open yet, and I ran around nice and easy for 15 minutes or so, and the streak lived.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A normal person would say that's not what you should do, but
mm-hmm.
Like you say, you went through 2 pregnancies, you find a way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's those insane moments of the streak, but it just, in some ways, it makes it worth it.
and those are the days where the challenge comes in. Mm-hmm. As I say, I never thought lacing up my shoes and going out the door was a big deal. I looked forward to it. I enjoyed it. I always liked doing that. On the days when I was really sick, really injured, and things like that, those are the days where the challenge is. And if you think back on it, how many of those days do you really have over the course of your 18-year streak? Mm-hmm. How many of those days have there really been?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
10, 20?
Yeah, and it all depends on, also your lifestyle kind of
That's right.
becomes a part of the run. So, for example, I refuse to do certain activities, like skiing for one thing. I'm very, very
Yeah, I'm the same.
paranoid.
I never did that.
Yeah, very paranoid about getting injured. And
that's right. No, I mean, it's you adapt it to what you need to do to keep it going. Mm-hmm. You adapt your lifestyle to keep it going. So it's like I say, I never thought that it was a huge challenge to get out every day. The challenge was when you were really sick, really hurt. Can you get up out of bed? Can you find somebody to give you an okay when you have an IV in your arm to jog around in the hospital a little bit, and stuff like that? That's when the challenges are. And when you get right down to it, how many days during the streak are those days actually there? How many days a year do you have a streak-threatening day?
Mm-hmm.
You can go years without one.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also a way of being smart about it. I mean, I've had some traveling threats, of flights are canceled or delayed and you're stuck in the airport, international travel. But just, I've learned how to be smart and try to run before the flight or run in airports. And there's always some open space.
Yes, you find ways. I ran up and down hotel hallways, stairwells, up and down stairwells at hotels. You just find a way to do that stuff. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying is nothing that you probably haven't done the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's part of the fun too, those crazy times.
Because then you can tell people about it, and they look at you a little stranger even than they did before.
Yeah. Yep. Well, what about 2 years ago, you came out with the book, Never Missed Lessons Learned in 45 years of running without missing a day. So there's 8 lessons here.
The book kind of evolved. It came about over a number of years. We talked about it. I've been talked to about it a number of years, and nothing came about for a while. And then my son, who is a sports psychologist, he said, "Hey, let's write the book. I need a book for his practice." He wanted to have a book that he could kind of point his clients to, about things. So, we talk about commitment and focus and the importance of building relationships and toughness and a number of other things in the book. And we talk about those types of things during the book. We talk about obviously my running streak and day-to-day life, what goes on with that. And, the book was more successful than I thought it would be. And people seem to like it. It's still available on Amazon, and so it was a fun thing to do. And I hope that from the feedback I got, people have liked it, and I hope that people, if they still get the book, I hope they enjoy it, and they can learn a couple things from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to close, what sort of advice do you have to someone interested in starting a streak or wanting to start running? I'm sure you've started with a lot of kids that you've coached and started running, or
I'll sure talk to people about starting running, because I think it's a great activity. Mm-hmm. It's something you can do no matter where you're at. You don't need a pool, you don't need a bike, you don't need a ball, you don't need a glove, you don't need anything. You just need a pair of shoes, you go out the door. Mm-hmm. So I think running is a great activity. I can't say I've ever told anybody they should start a streak. Mm-hmm. Because you tell somebody that, chances are they're going to fail. Mm-hmm. It's a tough thing to do. But like I say, I said earlier when we were talking here, I have had a number of kids that have had streaks, long streaks, and they'll talk to me about it once in a while, and after they've got it going and stuff. And like I tell them, that when it ends, it's just going to end. You'll know when it's supposed to end. Mm-hmm. And I think that 18 years, you have a streak for 18 years, and I think that at 18 years, you assume it's going to go on forever, and it may go on for another 20 years. Mm-hmm. Who's to say? It may go on for another 30 years. But there's so many things that come into play with it. So, I can't really tell somebody, if they say, I'm going to run every day for the next year, I'll go, good for you. I wish you all the luck in the world. But, I couldn't tell somebody, you should try to run every day for a year. Mm-hmm. That's a tough thing. That's a real commitment, even a year. Mm-hmm. And I think people that do have streaks, understand what I'm saying. It's a difficult thing. Running every day for a year is hard. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Running every day for 10 years, 20 years, 30, or however long, that's a hard thing. Yes. And So, I think running is something that I really encourage everybody to do. If they don't run, they can walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's an easy thing for most people to do. When I say easy, it's available to them. Mm-hmm. It's something they just have to walk out the front door and they can go do it. Where so many other things, there's other things that come into play. Do you have the equipment that you had at the gym? Do you have this? Do you have that? I mean, there's so many things, but mm-hmm. walking or running is something that's simple. You can get out the door and you can just go do that, mm-hmm. So I think that's an easy thing to encourage and try to talk people into. Starting a streak is mm-hmm. that's a personal decision. I think people have to make.
Yeah, exactly. And I've never told anybody, you should start a running streak. Maybe I'm doing a 30-day run challenge. So even committing to 30 days is almost like a sample of what it's like to have a run streak, or maybe just some motivation to get out there every day for 30 days. But
yeah, I've had a couple of kids in the last year that used to run for me and stuff. They told me they were doing a 30-day run challenge. And I go, are you going to make it 32 or 33? And they said, absolutely not. Yeah. They go, that's enough. They go, I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
Because 30 days is a big challenge.
Mm-hmm. It is a challenge. Yeah.
And that's, for most people, because most people don't work out 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. Let alone go for over 4 weeks. So that's a challenge. And those things are good. And many people, I'm sure, start their streaks by being involved in something like that. They say, wonder if I can go 2 months, and 2 months turns into a year, and then it's off, and then they're off and running, so to speak. But mm-hmm. I think for many of us that have streaks, it would be very hard to encourage somebody to go out and try to start a streak.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's almost thinking of the bigger picture. I don't know what's going to even happen tomorrow. So I just, if tomorrow's there, I'm going to run. So it's not like, I don't have a goal in place of getting to a certain number of years. It's almost being like, well, I hope I live till age 50 at least. And if I live to age 50, maybe I'll definitely be running every day.
Yeah, what you just said is right. I until I decided I was going to end it at 45 years, it was never that, oh, geez, I hope I can get to 30. I hope I can get to 35. It mm-hmm. was, a run the next day, and the streak was another day old.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think for many people that have streaks, short or long, maybe there is a goal and they started to get to a year, but then once they get past that, it just kind of goes. Mm-hmm. It just kind of happens, and for somebody like yourself, like you say, your goal is not to get to 20. You're just going to run tomorrow, and then it's another day old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I think we'll end it at that. It seems like we could probably talk about running and the run streak all day here. But is there anything else that you'd like to mention or comment on?
No, I appreciate you having me on the podcast, and good luck. I hope that you have a lot of people that listen to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I'll email you when I'm done here, and then you can share it. And if you like, or if you want to hear yourself talk.
No, I'll make sure I'll make sure I send it out so people can hear it.
At least your family can hear it and enjoy it. But I do appreciate your time, Mark, and I hope we keep in touch and enjoy the rest of your afternoon there in California.
Okay, thank you very much, and good luck with your run tomorrow.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you for joining the Daily Run with Zah. I really did enjoy my conversation with Mark Covert, and you can find his book. It's called Never Missed: Lessons Learned in 45 Years of Running Without Missing a Day. I didn't mention earlier, but he's run 159,644 miles in his 45-year run streak. So that's 16,436 days. And he has 8 lessons that he covers as far as what he's learned in that run streak. So check it out. And I do hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please leave a note below if you did enjoy, and don't forget to give us a rating so we can continue. So thanks for joining. Bye.